All right. To share a thought that we just studied in today's Torah portion about when the Jewish people go out to battle. I must share this with everyone. It is extremely powerful. So the Torah tells us that we should not have compassion against the enemy and the Torah has to command us to do this, not to have compassion. Because naturally, the Jewish people have compassion. But when you have compassion against your enemy that would never have compassion on you, as the Torah tells us, to have compassion upon them is not just foolish, it's actually immoral. It's actually immoral to have compassion over those who are your enemy who would not have compassion upon you. You think you're doing them a favor to give them life when all they want to do is destroy you and your life. So it sounds counterintuitive. Yeah, but I'm compassionate, so I'm going to have compassion. When you have compassion against evil, you are an enabler of evil. Evil needs to be destroyed. We have that obligation. That's what the Torah teaches us in today's Torah portion. It teaches us also, what's the other points that we learned? Oops, sorry, wrong place, yeah. Teaches us, even those who go to battle, that the nations of the world, they battle for their own pride, their own victory. The Jewish people, when they go to battle, it's in the name of God. It's not about their victory. It's about upholding the ways of God. And if our only merit is that we say the Shema Yisrael, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one, that is sufficient merit that God will stand in our stead and be there for us. How important it is, the message of what's going on in Israel today. And we shouldn't fear if we are determined to do it not for our own self-glorification, right? And we don't glorify in the downfall of the enemy. We don't glorify ourselves in that. We do it as a duty. Our nature would be to be compassionate, but we shouldn't be compassionate because then you allow evil to flourish. This is all fascinating, amazing, much more. We just learned about this in the Torah portion, Chumash Rashi, we had before this Tanya class, which you're invited to join us daily. Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zuch Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We conclude today the 10th letter. In this letter, we're speaking about two different types of divine kindness, and we can elicit God's kindness by our two different forms of kindness. There's a limited kindness that we do. We give limitedly, in a limited fashion. And then we elicit a light and energy and divine beneficence in a limited fashion. Or we can elicit something that is unique to the divine, which is infinite. We have that capability, we have that capacity to elicit divine light, energy, and life, beneficence, in a way that is limitless. When we are lacking, and therefore we need to do tshuva, penitence, and in that penitence, we transform darkness into light. We act in a way, and we're giving in a limitless fashion. A limitless fashion means that whatever the need is, I'm there to take care of that need. Whatever it takes, time, money, particularly we're talking about money, right? Whatever it takes. Just like healing of the body, I would spend all of my money if I know that this is going to heal me. All my savings isn't worth anything if I'm not going to live. So I would use all the money to heal me physically. So spiritually, we get healed by giving in a limitless fashion. With this now, we return to the original verse that we had from Jeremiah, that he says in Lamentations that Kiloi Samnu Chazeh Hashem Kiloi Samnu, that the kindnesses of God have surely not ended. Right? Destruction of the Holy Temple, Jeremiah is witnessing, and he's saying that the kindnesses of God have surely not ended. But the word doesn't say that God's kindnesses haven't ended, and it says that we have not ended. Or actually, we are not complete. We are not complete. The kindness is, right, because it's saying that we have been brought to an end, because we have not been brought to an end, even though we're not complete. That's what the word is saying. Because otherwise it should kiloi tama, which is third person plural, but it says first person plural. Right? So what does that mean? God, his unlimited giving, his kindness, which is the name that he's known by, the Holy One, blessed be he, right? Our everlasting. Our everlasting and our infinite, his giving. Even though a human and a human being in the human condition are limited. There's limited how kind we are and how compassionate we are. But his mercies never cease. So this is what we need to echo, to rise above the human condition and to be like God. His mercies never end. Likewise, ours don't. And this is why Jeremiah said this by the destruction of the Holy Temple. When everything, the presence of God is palpable and clear in the Holy Temple, God's presence is there, and therefore, we act in a righteous way, amazing. God is present in our lives. But when there's darkness because of destruction of the Holy Temple, right? That's when we have to come on and say that God's kindnesses still don't end. Because we're not perfect, therefore there was destruction. Now what we have to come on to is God's limitless giving. And we have to elicit that, his limitless giving, in a time of darkness, so we can transform the darkness into light. So his mercies never end, but in a time of darkness, They're infinite, and therefore even in darkness they can illuminate. But that's when we, in a time of darkness, time of exile, a time of personal exile, and we're not perfect, and collective exile, that we're in a time that the presence of God is not palpable, that brings out in us, right, that we have to dig deeper inside of us, that we should echo, mimic, if you will, God's infinite mercies by us being compassionate, kind, in a limitless fashion. As we explained, limitless fashion means, what does it mean? What does limitless fashion mean? Giving not what I'm comfortable to give, but rise beyond that. Giving what's needed, right? Giving whatever it is that it takes to bring healing to my body. I will spend all the money. So to bring healing, right? That God's mercy should be an infinite light of God that should embrace me. And therefore that brings healing, atonement and healing, right? This is what we want to elicit from God in the time of exile. And that's why our sages say that that Israel will be redeemed only through charity, will only be redeemed through charity. Parenthetically, that's why the Rebbe on Sundays would give out dollars to people to inspire them to be charitable, because our redemption will only come through our redemption will only come through charity, because to elicit, we need to elicit the infinite light of God to overcome the darkness of the world, to transform the darkness of the world. So that behooves us to rise up, to be giving in such a manner that we elicit that light of God that will transform the world, right? And this is what it means, that we will perform the act of being charitable, even when we're not obliged. As it says, Mashiach, the descendant of David, will not come until the pocket is empty of even the smallest coin, which Elder Rebbe is saying over here that we will give even our last coin to charity before we will take it for ourselves. That attitude is the attitude that will bring about the redemption, because that's an attitude. Imagine you have your last $5 on you, right? And you wanted to go buy a coffee, Starbucks. I don't know if you can get it for $5 anymore, but okay, you're gonna get a small, so you might be able to get it for $5. And then there's someone who needs. Maybe they need also just a coffee. Imagine you gave that $5 to them, that they get it instead of you. That's what we're talking about. That's limitless giving. I need coffee too. Okay, so you're going to make an instant right here instead. So no, so I'll have an instant coffee that costs, from my kitchen, that's costing me 10 cents, right? Or I already have it. There's a beautiful story of a friend of mine. His grandfather, during the war, Rabbi Avram Zaltzman. This is what real giving means. During the war in Samarkand, Samarkand is in, I think it was Uzbekistan today, if I'm not mistaken. Right? But it was part of, Mother Russia, right? Or actually not Mother Russia, the former Soviet Union, right? It was a part of. Oh, it's part of the former Soviet Union. And so they ran from the mainland of the Soviet Union so they could, be more secure in living a Jewish life. Because, to live in Russia or Ukraine was very difficult. And here, at least, is not as much under the eye of the communists. But still, they still had to be very careful in how they, because the communists were there, but they weren't as active. So you had a lot of Polish Jews. Yeah, a lot of Polish Jews. We're not there. We're not using the book. There were a lot of Polish Jews that ran out of Poland into Russia, and they came here to Samarkand. So during the war, this is close to the end of the war, but during the war, famine was rampant. During the war, right? It was very difficult. Anyways, it was coming to Passover, and Rabbi Avram Zaltzman is my friend. He's my age, his grandfather, right? Borrowed money, 3,000 ruble, so he could buy goods for Passover. Give the money to his wife so that they could make Passover. He borrowed the money. He didn't have anything, right? Anyways, he borrowed the money, and as he's coming back from borrowing the money, he sees a Jew from Poland, a Hasidic Jew, not a Chabadnik, not a Chabad, but a committed religious Jew, and he greets him. He says, "Tell me, I need help. I just came to town. I'm here with my wife, and I think had 2 or 3 kids, right? Pesach is coming. I know I have nothing, and I need to make Pesach. Any suggestions? What can I do?" So he took out the 3,000 rubles and gave it to him. He gave the money that he borrowed, right? We're talking about in the 40s, during the war in Soviet Union, where there was great famine. And he gave. And a few days later, his wife is asking for some money because she knows that he went to borrow money. So, I need some money. I need to start preparing for Pesach. I need some of the money to go to the market. He's hemming and hawing. Finally, he tells her. So what do you think her response was? What do you think her response was? I don't understand you. Why'd you give the whole thing away? You couldn't have given just half. Half. Who would give half? When it's money that you borrowed, that first of all, you have to pay for it. He gave him the money. He didn't lend him the money. Gave it to him. She says, "I'm sorry. I gave him the whole thing because you know what? He knows nobody here. He just came to town. I know I can borrow some more money. I'm not worried. This is what's called giving. This is for me this is what the Alter Rebbe was talking about. That's all you have in your pocket is this money, and you give it away totally. Totally. That's really, there is a God in your life. Yeah. My friend is the head Russian shliach in Toronto, Rabbi Zaltzman. An unbelievable guy. An empire he has. You get an empire, why? Because you give away the empire. You have an empire. That's his grandfather. Yeah. Unreal story. Yeah. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts? We all have the capacity. Yeah. That's what the Alter Rebbe taught us over here, right? That's what he taught us. Okay, I don't see any questions. Am I missing something? Yeah. Is disgust for evil and darkness considered? No, we should be disgusted with evil. Yes, we should hate evil. How you deal with the person who's acting evil is a different question, right? That's a different question. If it's your enemy who wants to destroy you, there's only one thing to do, is destroy them, as we just learned in Chumash, right? If it's your fellow, it's your family, that's different. If they're acting evil, that's chapter 32 of Tanya, that we learn that you are, you you embrace them. You embrace them. Okay, amazing. All right.